Yo, what's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome into the Bulls Report. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we got some rumors around Mitchell Robinson and Jerami Grant, as maybe Chicago could be looking to bring those two in this offseason. We'll dive into that here on today's show. But first off, if you guys want the Bulls to make a splash move this summer, let's get the good vibes going to start off today's show. Drop a like on today's video. Maybe we could get to 500 likes, 600 likes. I think that would be pretty awesome. So if you guys want the Bulls to make a splash, all you got to do, hit that thumbs up icon. All right, let's break it down. Could the Bulls be trading for Mitchell Robinson this summer, as there is some uncertainty if the Knicks will be able to retain the star center this offseason? Well, Zach Buckley, who covers the NBA for Bleacher Report, connected Chicago and the Knicks center. This is what he had to say. He said, with off-dribble scoring threats like Coby White and DeMar DeRozan, assuming he's re-signed, the Bulls could get a ton of mileage out of a dynamic pick-and-roll screener like Mitchell Robinson. And Zach Buckley, I totally agree with you. And this is one of my biggest problems with the Bulls roster right now. I think the archetype of center that Nikola Vucevic is, where he's more offensive-minded, likes to play on the perimeter, does not fit well with what Coby White and Ayo Dosunmu like to do. I would love to see, however, Coby and Ayo be playing with a center like Mitchell Robinson, where they can turn that corner, have the defender on the hip, and then it's either a floater, get to the rim, or they can throw that lob over the top to a guy like Mitchell Robinson, instead of Nikola Vucevic being on the outside, looking for that pop threat, which he obviously has not shot that at all well over the past couple of seasons with Chicago. So I think the more style of play that Mitchell Robinson is would just offer better value to this roster in comparison to Nikola Vucevic. But Zach Buckley also wrote up this part saying there's at least a chance he'll be available this offseason too. If the New York Knicks cough up the coin needed to resign Isaiah Hartenstein, they might need to find a way to unload Robinson and the $27.2 million he's owed over the next two seasons. This is coming from Spotrac. And he said ideally Chicago would find a way to bring a third team into the fold so it could route Nikola Vucevic elsewhere and replace him with Robinson. The Bulls would sacrifice some scoring in the process, but they become more dynamic at and especially above the rim. And the one thought I had when the Bulls possibly getting Mitchell Robinson, could you imagine the defensive-minded core they would be able to have, not only just on the perimeter, but now at the rim? The Bulls have always had a solid defense over the past couple of seasons. Even though offensively they've kind of seen, behind the times of not adapting to the new age of shooting the three-pointer on the offensive side. But, man, their defensive core of having two great point-of-attack defenders in Caruso and Dosunmu. You got the long wing in Patrick Williams. And then if you would truly have a shot blocker like Mitchell Robinson, the Bulls would finally have an identity. Like, they would have a defensive, tough-minded basketball team by just making one quick move. Because then you could legitimately roll out there 4 elite defenders and then an offensive masterful player like a guy like Coby White. That would be a pretty fun Bulls lineup to roll out there. So I think truly, if the Bulls wanted to make one big move on changing the culture and the identity of this team, it would be getting a guy like Mitchell Robinson. But you guys let me know. Would you trade for Mitch Rob this summer? Give me a T for trade or give me a P for pass down in the comment section. I'll make this the pinned comment on today's video. So if YouTube throws an ad break your way, sit back, let it play, and let me know your thoughts on if you would trade for Mitchell Robinson. I would do it, obviously, if we could bring in Mitch Rob this offseason. Sign me up. But I'm not overpaying for him this year. And this kind of gets me my overall take on the Bulls offseason. No matter what moves the Bulls make this summer, they have to think big picture. Because I don't think there is a combination of roster moves the Bulls can make that could get them to contending in the Eastern Conference next season. You have to think down the line. You have to think in 2-3 years from now when Ayo, Coby White, and those types of players on this team are hitting their strides and hitting their prime. So, Mitchell Robinson, I would love to bring you to Chicago, but I'm not going to overpay and sell more future draft capital to just get the Bulls slightly better on the margins this season. But coming up next, I do want to discuss Jerami Grant, as the Bulls could be looking to upgrade that forward spot this summer. It doesn't make sense for them to trade for the Portland Trailblazers forward. We'll dive into that here in a second. But first off, guys, got to tell you about my favorite app I have on my phone, and that is PrizePicks. If you guys head to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use promo code CLNS when you're making your first deposit into your account, we're going to match it up to $100. And I actually have a lineup for tonight's game between the Knicks and the Pacers. this is a free one, I must say, my friend. So I'm taking the more on Alec Burks, 10.5 points, riding the hot hand of Dante DiVincenzo more than 17, fading Obi Toppin at less than 9.5, and then we think Halliburton's going to get it going in the playmaking department. So I'm taking more on 8.5 assists for him. But hey, ride with those picks, fade those picks. We just ask you guys, do make some lineups at Prize Picks. If you guys want to add more juice to your NBA playoff viewing experience, Prize Picks is the best way to do so. Even though the Nuggets-Timberwolves game last night was an absolute blowout, I was still following my Prize Picks lineup all the way to the end. And if you guys want to, get in on that type of fun, I really encourage you guys download the Prize Picks app. And when you guys are making your first deposit, use that promo code CLNS, and we will match your first deposit into your account up to $100. It's the best deal out there right now, guys. And put your basketball knowledge to the test by picking more or less onto the 6-player stat projection. So let's talk about it. Bulls rumors on Jerami Grant. Where do they stand right now? Well, Bleacher Report's Zach Buckley did write up an article suggesting that Chicago could be targeting the Portland Trailblazers forward. This is what he had to say. He said, a big two-way wing has to be at the top of the wish list for Chicago this summer. Basically, the Bulls need the kind of player they hoped Patrick Williams would have become by now. He carried on to say Grant comes close enough for Chicago to feel out his trade market, especially if his pricey pack, 4 years, $132.4 million remaining, keeps his trade costs down. There has to be, there also is long-term assets to the post Damian Lillard Portland Trailblazers. That's not Chicago's only path to a deal. Lonzo's expiring contract plus filler and a couple of draft assets might make Portland think about it. And listen, Jerami Grant, he is a solid player in the NBA. Like, he really is that prototypical 3-and-D wing who is super deadly from the outside. It's always been a really solid three-point shooter, hence why shooting 40+% this past season from downtown. But I like his defensive versatility, and I think if you would get him on maybe a true playoff team, which the Bulls would be if you would bring him in, I think you would see that extra gear he could kick on the defensive side of the floor. I always say if you have the body and the athletic capability to be a good defender, like, I think Jerami Grant, if he was just in the right situation with the right team, like, we could see his best defense being played here in the NBA. But, the thing is with Jerami Grant is he really moving a needle for Chicago? Like, is he truly going to get the Bulls to a top 4, top 5 team in the Eastern Conference? Probably not. And I think he would necessarily keep the Bulls in this purgatory zone that they've been in over the past couple of seasons, where they're not good enough to go get one of the top picks in the NBA draft, and they're also are not good enough to go compete for NBA championships, but they're also not bad enough to land a top 5 pick. Hence why, yet again, the Bulls have the 11th pick in the draft and just missed the playoffs. They're the true definition of mid here in the NBA. But Zach Buckley also wrote this up, saying, at the price, Grant would be an interesting get. He isn't the primary scoring option. He's been on a few bottom feeder teams in recent years, but he's an athletic, defensively versatile forward who can shine in tertiary offensive roles. And listen, I agree, like, he would shine, I believe, offensively next to guys like Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, and then if you do bring back DeMar DeRozan. But again, with where the Bulls are at, like, I think the Bulls have a massive wound on their body, and I think a move like Jerami Grant would just put a little Band-Aid over it. Like, I don't necessarily think it would completely stitch up the wound, and the Bulls could be, starting moving forward on this youth movement. So my whole take with kind of where the Bulls offseason is right now, like, don't sell your future draft capital just to move up a couple spots next season in the standings. Like, truly think about the long-term picture here, because also, guys, there's a kid named Cooper Flag coming out of the draft next season, and if the Bulls could somehow land the top pick next year, like, that would be the number one move to make to fully change the direction of this franchise. But I'm going to know your guys' thoughts here on this one. What is your confidence level in the Bulls front office? I'm assuming these are going to be pretty low, but maybe you're an optimistic person. Maybe you disagree with maybe me not having too much faith in this front office, but scale it for me 1 to 10 down in the comments section. And as always, guys, make sure you are subscribed here to the channel. I'm hoping it's a fun and interesting offseason for our Chicago Bulls, but as we know, as recent memory, they have not made that many moves during the summertime. But if they do, we'll have a video for you guys ASAP. So hit that sub button and lock us in. Go Bulls.